Rule number 5 to 8, Operational Procedures. There is a three types of inter-unit coordination. Number 1, personal coordination or by official representative. Team leaders of local police units operation outside their territorial jurisdiction and national support units shall coordinate personally or through an official representative with the police regional, provincial, or city police office within whose jurisdiction of operation is to be conducted. Number 2, coordination by filling coordination form. The launching of the operation except in cases where the formal in writing inter-unit coordination cannot be made due to the nature and urgency of the situation such as but not limited to cross-jurisdiction pursuit operation coordination form which shall be filled with the concerned operation center of police regional, provincial, or city office. Number 3, coordination by practical available means of communication. In case where the formal inter-unit coordination is not feasible, the police unit shall be concerned shall endeavor not to notify the territorial police office through any practical available means of communication at any during the operation and if not possible, shall accomplish and furnish territorial police office written incident report immediately after the termination of operation. Use of force during police operations. Number 1 is use of excessive force prohibited. The excessive use of force during police operation is prohibited. However, the lawful performance of duty, a police officer may use necessary force to accomplish his mandated as of enforcing the law and maintaining peace and order. Issuance of verbal warning. Police officer must first issue a verbal warning before enforcing. Operation and planning could use force against an offender as far as practicable. The verbal warning should be in the dialect that is known for the offender or in the national language. Basically, the verbal warning shall consist of the following: the police officer identifying himself, his attention, and what he wants the offender to do. Take note, if the offender is a foreigner, the verbal warning should be done in the English language followed by a demonstrative act of police officer intent. The verbal warning should be done in loud and clear manner. Number 3. Non-issuance of verbal warning when excusable. The failure to issue a verbal warning is excusable in cases where threat to life or property is already imminent and there is no other option but to use force to subdue the offender. Number 4. Use of non-lethal weapon. When suspect is violent or threatening and that less physical measures have been tried and deemed inappropriate, a more extreme but non-deadly measure can be used such as baton, truncheon, pepper spray, stun gun, and other non-lethal weapon to bring the suspect under control or effect an arrest. Number 5. Application of necessary and reasonable force. During confrontation with an armed offender, only such necessary and reasonable force should be applied would be sufficient to overcome the resistance put up by the offender, subdue the clear and imminent danger posed by him, or to justify the force act under principles of self-defense, self-relative, or defense of stranger. Number 6. Factors to consider in the reasonableness of the force employed. A police officer, however, is not required to afford offenders attacking him the opportunity of fair or equal struggle. The reasonableness of force employed will depend upon the number of aggressors, nature and characteristic of weapon use, physical condition, size, and other circumstances, to include the police accusation of the assault. The police officer is given the sound discretion to consider these factors in employing reasonable force. Responsibility of the police officer in charge of the operation. The police officer who is in charge of the operation shall at all times exercise control over all police personnel in the area of operation and shall exhaust all possible means to apply the necessary and reasonable force to protect lives and properties during armed confrontation. Use of firearms during police operation. Number 1. Use of firearm when justified. The use of firearm is justified if the offender poses imminent danger of causing death or injury to the police officer or other persons. The use of firearm is also justified under the doctrines of self-defense, defense of relatives, and defense of stranger. However, one who resorts to self-defense must face real threat on his life, and the peril so to be avoided must be actual, imminent, and real. Unlawful aggression should be present for self-defense to be considered as justifying circumstances. Number 2. Firing at moving vehicle prohibited but with exceptions. A moving vehicle shall not be fired upon except when its occupants pose imminent danger of causing death or injury to the police officers or any other person, and that the use of firearm does not create a danger to the public outweigh the likely benefits of its non-use. Number 3. Parameters to be considered in firing at moving vehicle. The following parameters should be considered: the intent of suspects to harm the officer or other persons, the capability of suspect to harm with certainly the police officer or other persons, and accessibility of proximity of the suspects from police officer and other persons. Number 4. Filing an incident report after the use of firearm. A police officer who fires his service firearm or weapon during a confrontation with an offender or offenders must submit an incident report during outlining the circumstances necessitating the use of his firearms. Number 5. Procedures after an armed confrontation. Immediately after an armed confrontation, the officers who is in charge of the operation shall: A. Secure the site of confrontation. B. Take photographs. C. Check whether the situation still poses imminent danger. D. Evacuate wounded to the nearest hospital. E. Ensure all persons who died on the spot are not moved from their original position. F. Arrested suspects should be kept in isolation. G. Conduct debriefing on all involved PNP operatives. H. Submit after operations report. And I. Ensure psychological stress counseling for all involved PNP operatives. That's all. Thank you for watching and listening.